Good afternoon and welcome to the 235th episode of the Georgia Farm Bureau Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. We've got a great show today. We're going to be joined by Najeh Wilkins, who has been covering the lacrosse season all year, and we'll talk specifically about the state championships. He was covering it. He had some major predictions that came true. A truly historic season for West Forsyth. We'll roll a clip shortly, but then we're also going to be joined by Sonoraville head coach Denver Pate in the second slot. They had a really strong season in Region 7 in 4A. They played all of the top teams pretty much in Class 4A last year, whether it was Cedartown or North Oconee in the playoffs. So I'm excited to see what they've been doing this offseason to build off that. I think they have a real big shot this year to be competitive. Then we're going to break down the track and field state championships this weekend. That was a ton of results, and there was some history made, some big performances on Saturday. And then we'll talk about the tennis state championships and set the stage for baseball. So packed show for sure, but let's just start with lacrosse because it was, in my opinion, the biggest lacrosse game in the championships in a while. We've seen Forsyth County, whether it was how dominant they were in soccer this year, they've just had an outstanding run. And this rematch from the regular season between West Forsyth and Lambert really was a defining moment. Is Lambert going to maintain its grip on 7A, or has West Forsyth finally knocked off Lambert? It reminded me of, I think it was like with the cheerleading state championships. It's like Lambert was winning year after year after year, and then South Forsyth came up, and then they started winning state championships, and then that created a rivalry. So without further ado, let's check out Najeh's clip from this Thursday before the big game.
D1 talent as well. They're one of only two teams to score double digits against Lambert this season. Lambert is looking to make history as the most winningest team in lacrosse boys history. They're tied right now with Westminster at 6 total state titles. Defender Liam Sweeney, who is committed to Westminster, and Christopher Harper is committed to Embry-Riddle. Those are both great players for Lambert. West Forsyth, again, looking to make history. Imagine beating a team that's beaten you 11 straight times. You're kind of like that little brother. Imagine you having a bigger brother. He's just always whooping you. Imagine the basketball. He's just whooping you all the time. Just, man, beating you by 10-plus points, 10-plus points, 10-plus points. And you finally, like, bro, I beat you. You know, I beat you 11-10. Yeah, I beat you. Oh, it's only 1 point. I still beat you. Imagine playing him again with everything on the line, a state title, your first ever championship as well. West Forsyth boys are trying to do the same thing, and you go and you win. That's 2 victories in the season. That's going to create a rivalry. I mean, Lambert, again, they've won, I think, 5 of the last 6 state titles. I think they're seeking their 3rd consecutive. Imagine throwing a wrench into that and you being able to win. And then their head coach is phenomenal. John Layden's been doing a good job. He just won Lacrosse Boys Coach of the Year for 7A. I think they got everything they need in order to win this matchup. They got great players, all-state players, a phenomenal group that's bought in. As he says, it's a team that plays for each other. When I interviewed them, a team that, you know, is not egotistical. They don't put one man above the team. It's all about the best, basically the benefit of the team. Who is going to buy in? And I love that about their team. And man, I think this is going to be one of I think it's going to turn into a league rivalry in Georgia high school lacrosse. It's going to be must-see TV. I really do. And I'm going to go with West Forsyth with the win. I am. I predicted them earlier in the season to beat Lambert. I'm doing it again. But close victory again. Instead of 10-9, I got 9-8. And I think this is going to be a start of an elite rivalry in high school lacrosse. So that is must-watch TV.
There you have it. What a prediction and what a result. So West Forsyth ends up winning 11-9. It was a wild game. They built a 5-1 lead. Lambert comes back. Looks like, oh, here comes the Longhorns. And then that grittiness, toughness, and overall team attitude that West Forsyth has used all season paid off. And, I mean, it's exactly what Najeh said in terms of West Forsyth being able to throw a wrench into Lambert's, really what was an ongoing dynasty. They had an opportunity if they would have won that state title, they would have been the all-time winningest boys lacrosse program. And then heading into that game, Lambert was the highest ranked team nationally from Georgia at number 10, and then West Forsyth was at number 11. So that will obviously change. And what's up? All right, we got Najeh. Hold up one sec. I swear I thought I sent him this link. One sec. Not Najeh, my next guest. Hold up. Hold tight, Najeh, one sec.
No, you're good, man. I know how that is.
Can't leave Coach Pate hanging. All right. So, yeah, I went over some of the stats, but just talk about what you saw in that game, just how hard West Forsyth had to fight, and just what you think that means for that rivalry specifically heading into future lacrosse seasons.
Yeah, I mean, it was a drawn out game. Like West Forsyth really had to battle. Lambert was, got back into the game. West Forsyth jumped out early, and they built like a 4 or 5 goal lead. Lambert gets right back in the game. They go on a run and held just a 6-5 lead at halftime. I think they were up 5-1. They go on a 4-1 run in the quarter and going into the break into halftime. So, come out second half, Lambert has all the momentum. I think Lambert goes up, 7-6 at one point in the second half. But then West Forsyth, they answer back, like how they've been doing all season long. And then they get back into the game, and then, Lambert's continue to make it interesting, but then they're able to pull away in the fourth quarter. I think they scored like 3 or 4 goals in the fourth, pulled away a little bit, and then they ended up taking it home 11-9.
Yeah, and you pointed out that, the entire season for West Forsyth was historic. They achieved 20 wins for the first time, but how big was it for them to avenge that Buford loss in the playoffs as well, and how much confidence do you think that gave them?
I think that gave them a lot, right? Beating Buford in the semifinals, beating a team that beat you earlier in the season by a point, you come back, you beat them. But this is a team that had confidence all year, right? Going into that game against Lambert, beating them earlier in the season, first ever victory in program history against them, just said a lot about what direction they were going, how good of a season they were having. But no, that was huge. That gave them momentum, and it was like, okay, we're facing a team that we beat earlier this year. Obviously, it won't be easy, but we kind of had the familiarity with them. They're an area foe. We know how they like to play. We know some of their weaknesses and strengths, and then, we know how to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and not only had West Forsyth never beaten them before this season, they had never scored double-digit goals. And so I just think this final score, 11-9, it just represents West Forsyth's incredible season so well, because it's like, all right, we beat you 10-9. We're going to rematch in the state championship, and let's just add a 2-goal final margin just for good measure. So, who stood out in that game besides James Davison and just that incredible nucleus for West Forsyth?
Yeah, you got Gray Brockman, played well. Will, they both were all-state selections. They had good games as well. But, yeah, Dave was huge in the early onslaught. He had 3 goals and 2 assists, attributed for 5 of their goals when he jumped out early to that lead and had the momentum. So, that's huge. And I think that was one of the key things I said, but they're going to have to jump out early on Lambert and kind of build and maintain a lead. And they were able to do that. Obviously, Lambert got back in the game, but the play of their team all year long, the coach was fantastic. He won 7A Coach of the Year, all-state selections. This is a team that played for each other, played together, never had one man above the team. Everybody bought in, and I think that's why they are state champions now.
Yeah, it really was such a huge moment for them. Everything was on the line. Let's shift over to the girls' side, though. Milton getting another state championship. Just how incredible is their just current run and 16 state titles in, I think, 18 years?
Yeah, Tim Godby is doing a magnificent job, and that's an understatement, right? This is a coach that has been inducted to the Georgia Lacrosse Hall of Fame in 2019. This is the coach that just won National Lacrosse Coach of the Year. He just continued to add to an already very impressive resume, and now they've won 6 consecutive state titles. They played a really good team too. West Forsyth, they ended up, cutting the lead down late. It's about 4 goals, made the things interesting, but they had a really good attacking team this year, right? They had senior Noah Curley. She had 64 goals, 21 assists this year. She was a force in the open field and on the attacking end for them. And then their freshman stepped up big for West Forsyth, 36 goals. So the fact that they were able to put up double digits up against them again, beat them for 2 times in one season, I think that's huge. And a lot of people don't understand. Like, it's hard to beat a team 2 times in one season. That is not an easy feat. And for them to do that, and like I said, like I was telling Coach when I interviewed them, your team just looks like they have fun out there. And that's how they look at the Milton program. They have fun. They're focused. They're dialed in. I think a lot of it attributes to the success and what they do in the offseason, the training, the conditioning, the workouts, and then their scheduling, I think, is very pivotal to that as well, right? So you have a team that plays, obviously, some of the best teams in the state of Georgia. But, no, they're going against teams that are best in the country in Baltimore, Maryland, Tennessee, Florida. Like, Coach Godby's not afraid to expose his team to better players and to better teams in order for them to get better. And even though they had the 2 losses this season, they were out of state. But that gets his team better when it comes to making a state playoff run and to be able to exhibit and continue to have that dominant run they've been having.
Yeah, and obviously West Forsyth wanted to pull off a huge win, but if you look at what Milton did to the other teams in the playoffs, 20-3 over North Gwinnett, 20-5 Cherokee, a 10-goal win over Walton. So, I mean, playing Milton that close, I think it is a good learning experience. And then I saw you were pointing out some of the underclassmen in that game. Byrne Burkholtz, is she on West Forsyth or Milton?
She's on West Forsyth. She's a freshman.
Okay, so that's huge. They're going to have her back, and, yeah, a great season. She scored 45 goals. Incredible. Let's shift over to the Class 5A, 6A. The Roswell boys capped a just incredible season. They had so much talent. They're going to be populating college rosters all over. And then BT on the girls' side, they have their own thing going with how dominant they've been.
Yeah, I can't speak enough. I want to give a shout out to Alatuna in that game. I can't speak to them enough on what they did this season, right? They started the season 0-4, got back to 500 at 6-6 record, righted the ship. Their coach won All-Area Coach of the Year. What they did this postseason and this season was incredible. Getting back into it, riling off 8 consecutive wins to go to the playoffs, upsetting a top-seeded team I had in 5A, 6A in my AJC rankings, and Blessed Trinity 13-12 in the playoffs. Alatuna had a phenomenal year. It was a great finish for them. They didn't come up short, but I thought a great year. And then for Roswell, they were just on another level offensively, right? I interviewed the coach, and, I think their offense was just another level this year, right? They scored in double figures in every playoff game. And then they scored 3 of the 5 games. They scored over 20 goals. They were just on another level. That included 6 All-Americans, Ezra Moore, Hill Plunkett, Alex Lobel, Miles Quant, Stone Smith, and 3 All-State selections they had too. So, incredibly talented team. They were a lot of fun to watch out there in 5A, 6A. So I wanted to highlight it too. And the girls' Trinity wins, I think they're 6th of the last 7 years, their championship. They're just having a historic run of dominance for Blessed Trinity, right? It's tough to do that, but they've continued to be kind of in that same kind of realm of contending and competing for, state championships. And now they've won back-to-back 21 seasons. They've won 20 games 4 of the past 7 seasons for Blessed Trinity. So they've been playing great, and I thought the run for Roswell was great as well, right? They, were a 3 seed, right? We talked about how tough their region was. Johns Creek, Centennial, Cambridge, Blessed Trinity was in there. For them to make the playoffs as a 3 seed, have a tougher road, and to make it all the way to the state championship game, I think speaks a lot to what they were doing all season long. And they had their best finish in program history with 17 wins, and they were seeking their first championship. So despite the loss, I think Roswell has a lot to look forward to. I thought they had a great run this year.
Yep, and then in Class A through 4A, Westminster Lovett, that's an obvious rivalry in every sport, but specifically lacrosse, those are 2 outstanding programs. Lovett was the defending champ. I know they played earlier this year. Did Westminster sweep that?
I think Lovett actually won the first one.
Okay, yeah, I thought that might have been the case. Yeah, and they were the defending champs, so that was a huge win, 10-4 by Westminster.
Yeah, no, that was huge for them. They outscored them after the first quarter 7-1. The game was kind of close, nip and tuck, but they just took over after the second quarter. Held a good halftime lead, and then Westminster makes their own history, right? We talk about Milton and how good they are, being the winningest program in state history, girls and boys included, right? Well, now Westminster with the victory 10-4. They're now the winningest program in boys history, breaking past Lambert, who they were tied with going into the championship. So another great run for them. And I want to shout out to the Lions. They started off, they had a rough start to the season, right? 1-3, 3-6 overall. They rattled off 6 straight victories to go 9-6, win their region, go 3-0 in their area. And they played and made the 1 seed. I thought their win against Stars Mill this season was huge. Stars Mill was at the top of my rankings throughout most of the season. For them to get that win in the playoffs, I think, spoke a lot. I thought they really righted the ship and really brought in after kind of a tough start. But they really, I thought, played some really good lacrosse. And that win against Stars Mills was huge.
Yeah, I have a feeling that after last year they go undefeated. They probably replaced a ton of guys and then had that slow start, got back to the finals, and came up 1 game short. But, I mean, on the girls' side, Pace Academy, they joined the West Forsyth boys as first-time state champs. So that's obviously exciting for the Knights. And they beat a Wesleyan team that was definitely battle-tested, had some emotional last-second thrillers in the playoffs.
No, for sure. I mean, for Wesleyan, for Pace Academy, get that win was huge. They battled them earlier this season, lost in a high-scoring game. I predicted another high-scoring game. I was 18-15. Wesleyan got the win, but Pace Academy have one of their better seasons, winning it all, 19 wins this year. The game on a 10-5 goal run, I thought was huge for them. Ultimately fell short for Wesleyan, but I thought they pulled off, a thrilling win in the semifinals, right? They beat Westminster 11-10. Their goalie, she played with a wrist injury. Senior Lily Neidham, and she still had 14 saves. So I thought she was huge, and some of the freshmen and other classmen stepped up really big. I think Avery Tucker, they both had 3 goals apiece, their sophomore and their freshman. So I thought a great run for Wesleyan. Definitely some things they can build off of and going into next season. When they got some of their younger girls that play significant minutes this year, they're only going to add to it and get better and better.
Yeah, and you just did such a great job covering lacrosse this season, recognizing what was going on at West Forsyth on the boys' side, looking at the Johns Creek girls, interviewing their coach about their historic start. So, I mean, these classifications, these areas are going to stay the same next year. So, I mean, what are your just expectations now that some of these rivalries have been established and there's really kind of been a shakeup in terms of the overall depth and who's capable of making it to the state championship?
It's going to be interesting again next year, right? You had North Gwinnett, Buford, West Forsyth, Lambert all make the playoffs, right? I think that's going to be another area to watch for. I think West Forsyth, that Lambert rivalry is building now. Swept them this season, right? That's not easy to do. They beat them with the first time in history, and they beat them with everything on the line, right? They beat a really good Lambert team. Like, they had 7 21 seasons the past 9 years. That is not easy to do. So I think that's going to be interesting to see what happens out there in 7A and 5A, 6A. Alatoona is a team that really snuck up on me, right? I didn't think they were as good as they showed, right? So they really surprised me. I'm curious to see how they're going to look next season, right? They weren't in my ranking. They were in my rankings to start, but not towards the end of the season. But look at the run they pulled off, upsetting me early in the playoffs. I think they're going to be a team to watch out for next season. And then Class A 4A, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I had other teams that I thought were better than Westminster and Lovett, but they showed that championship pedigree that they had, and they got right back to the game. So, the teams I'm watching for again next year. And on the girls' side, Milton, I mean, they're the creme de la creme. Every year they're good. And like I said, Tim Gobby does an excellent job. So I'm interested to see what's a team that can possibly give them a little bit of a run, possibly make it difficult for them. But I just think what they're doing with their program is exceptional. Say, can Roswell get back to the big game? Can somebody slow down? Let's train these recent dominant 6 championships in the last 7 years. So
For sure.
That's the big thing there.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to it. We'll obviously check out your final rankings at scoretl.com. Thank you so much for coming on, Najeh. And, yeah, we will definitely check that out because that'll be interesting to see how the final chips are settled.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So we had to jump off because Coach Pate's going to be ready to go. But let's go ahead and take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Georgia Farm Bureau.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are a Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So that was awesome. A really exciting um, weekend for the Lacrosse State Championships. We saw some teams complete the sweeps. They all were rematches from the regular season, but then we also saw how tough it is to beat the same team twice in the case of uh, the Westminster boys over Lovett and then the Pace Academy girls over Wesleyan. But you look at some of the key contributors in these finalists, and a lot of underclassmen are going to be returning. We saw the contrast of styles, but yeah, I think the big storyline for sure is we saw West Forsyth overcome Lambert this year. Can someone do the same to Milton next season? Because they just have such a grip on the girls' side of lacrosse. Let's see what Coach Pate said. Okay, he says he thinks he's ready.
Yeah, he was just on there. I mean, he just went on.
Okay.
He was just there, moving and everything.
All right, so Sonoraville is going to be in Region 7 in Class 4A. The region champion last year was Cedartown. We all know how good they were. Coach Pate actually used to coach at Cedartown, but now he's been at Sonoraville. He was the offensive coordinator before taking over as head coach. He's got his son, Jackson Pate, at quarterback. He has been starting since his sophomore year. He had a really strong junior season last year, and now they get that luxury of having him as a third-year starter. All right, we got Coach Pate. Hey, Coach, how's it going?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Doing fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. So I was just talking about the luxury of having a three-year starter at quarterback. So talk a little bit about that, how Jackson's been preparing for this big senior year, and just what potential you think this offense is going to have.
Yes, sir. It's always good when you can bring back your quarterback. And with Jackson starting the last couple of years, the expectation's high. It's high around here. He brings a lot to the table. He's very versatile in the run game and in the passing game. And some of the weapons that we bring back around him with Keegan Townsend and some of our wide receivers. And, we're bringing back some guys like Ty Brown and White Key that's going to have big years for us offensively.
Yeah, Keegan Townsend. Talk about just the season he had last year, what he showed you, some of his big explosive plays. I know last time we chatted, it was in the thick of that region battle, and I mean, you guys had a lot of close games where guys were coming up with big-time plays on third down, fourth down. So what did you see from Keegan last year, just being able to handle the moment?
Keegan's a deep threat for us. He's a track guy. For us, he's got really good speed. He's a guy that can get behind defenders, and with big play capability for us, and he did a good job of that last year. We look forward to having him back again this year. To be able to get the ball over the top to him, and to make some big plays for us offensively.
Yeah, well, having that deep threat, that is so important, keeping those secondary honest and just having that potential threat on any given down, especially if you get in those second and shorts. But in terms of rushing the ball, Jackson picked up significant yards last year with his athleticism, but who else in the backfield just this offseason has showed you that they're ready to take that load?
Yeah, Jackson does a lot in our run game as well, but White Key is a guy that we're counting on. He's a strong kid. He played a lot of valuable minutes for us last year, with Zach. Zach got hurt a little bit, and, White Key's going to be a factor for us this year. Jaden Cruz is another kid that's a burner. He's a smaller guy, but he's kind of a, more of a Kansas State type running back, one of those little short kids that can go. He's just a sophomore, or is going to be just a sophomore, but he's another one that's going to be a name that, a lot of people is going to look to, over the next couple of years.
And then was it Ridge Red, that was your tight end that graduated? I think you went to, was it Jacksonville State?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We was very fortunate to send, 4 to school, 4 off to college. We had a couple sign with Reinhardt, Tristan Mullins, and Preston Gilbert, and then Brant Bryant signed with Barry, and then Ridge had multiple offers, but he decided to go to Jacksonville State, and we wish all 4 of those guys the best of luck.
Yeah, and in terms of Ridge, what did you see from him just in terms of his development? He obviously could catch the ball well, but just turn it into that complete tight end prospect where he can put his hand in the ground, block, and just have that ability to bring to the next level.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest key. A lot of tight ends, you can use them in the passing game. Then they're decent blockers, but Ridge brings that element to the table of being more of a physical blocker. He's someone that at the next level he can put his hand down on the ground, and you can split him out. So just the versatility that Ridge brings to the table, gives him the opportunity to be able to play at this next level.
And then you mentioned Tristan Mullins. He was a tackling machine, 13 tackles per game last year. Your middle linebacker. So those are some pretty big shoes to fill just in terms of that defensive kind of captain leadership role. So who do you have stepping up to fill in that middle linebacker role?
Yeah, Ty Brown, he's one that started for us at one of our linebacker positions. We're going to count on him to help us a lot more on the defensive side of the football. Corbin Dixon is a kid that's worked extremely hard in the weight room and came on tremendously last year. He had to fill in one game, but he's another guy that that we look to get the job done with. He's going to be a junior. He's a strong kid in the weight room. He continues to develop, and these guys that just play hard, and he's one of those guys.
And you have a really nice non-region schedule: Pickens, Darlington, Dalton, Lafayette, and Calhoun. Is that going to stay the same this season?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just the venue will switch. We'll just flip venues.
Yeah, and that is the who's who of Northwest Georgia powerhouses. You guys had some success last year. You got the big win over Dalton. We saw how competitive they were up in their classification and that loaded region. You're also going to play Calhoun. That was a really tight game at the half. I think they ran away with that one in the second half. But what are you looking for this year just in that non-region schedule to prepare you guys for this region now that you're familiar with these opponents?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to use these 5 non-region games to prepare us for the Cedar Towns, the Centrals, the Northwest Whitfield, the Southeast Whitfield, and Heritage. When you run into a Darlington, they're going to be a physical, well-coached team. Same with Lafayette, Calhoun, and Dalton. They're going to bring a lot of speed to the table. And then Pickens has been very successful too. I think all of them but one were playoff teams last year. So we got our work cut out with it for us in this non-region schedule. But the quality of the competition, we hope it prepares us for our region play like it did last year.
Yeah, and you said last season a couple of these games, you guys had maybe some uncharacteristic turnovers. And when I think about the off season, it's just so important to have those mistakes happen in practice and learning from them. I mean, I remember when I was playing receiver, I wasn't someone that ever turned the ball over and then really wasn't in that situation. Then we're in a scrimmage, I have a nice catch, I'm excited, and then my buddy knocks it out and I fumble and turn it over. Just a horrible change of events. So how do you get these guys to recognize just those important plays where it's like, yes, you got to focus on your route, focus on the catch, the yards, but really that ball security is just going to be so huge, and you can never emphasize it enough.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, just the amount of repetitions, it's got to become second nature. Starting with a quarterback, his reads and through his progressions, it's got to be second nature. And these receivers and running backs, we got to make sure we get them quality reps, early on, because you're right. I mean, we were in a number of close games down the stretch. We had Central go our way and then Heritage not. But in both of those games, we kind of got ourselves behind the eight ball, so to speak, and had to battle back to be in those games. So, coming out of the gate will be key this year, and especially in those region games, and jumping on teams early and not having to play from behind and scratch and claw to get back in the game. Go ahead and be in the game early on in the football game, and progress as the game goes along.
Yeah, it looks like you guys came out of the gates in a lot of these matchups really well, and some of these tight losses you're talking about, it's like if you could get that 2-score lead, I mean, that changes everything, because then you can control the clock more. It's not just trading punches and relying on who has the ball at the end or who's going for a 2-point conversion. But I mean, this region's not going to get any easier. I think it's a really challenging one. So let's talk about that. You guys are in 4A. You're playing in a loaded region with teams like Central Carroll that are on the rise. They've got just tons of star power. Heritage Catoosa has been outstanding. Southeast Whitfield's making progress. And then Cedartown, as you said, they play angry.
Right. I mean, Cedartown, they're, played for it last year. Quality coach, quality players, all over the field. They're extremely tough. I mean, at least back-to-back region champions. So it's their region until somebody comes to take it from them. And then Central, they're loaded with talent. The running backs got offers from everywhere. He's a really good player, but you got a new head coach coming in there, and they got a ton of talent though over there. They sent the receiver to South Carolina, and then Heritage and Northwest, they're solid. Both of them's going to have to replace their quarterback, but they're going to have enough games under their belt. Time we play them, they'll be a little bit more established by then. But again, both teams, especially Northwest, in the past have generally liked to air it out a little bit, and Heritage has been very balanced. They got a lot of playmakers, lost a couple, but again, I'm sure they got more in their arsenal. And then Southeast is a team that we'll play at the end of the season. It'll be our senior night since this is our last home game. It's got to be a game that we send these seniors out, with our last regular season game on a positive note. So it's 5 games. It's a sprint to the finish once you get in this region. We got to make sure we have all our horses ready to go.
Yeah, and talk about your spring schedule. What part of it, if it's still ongoing, if you've had your scrimmage yet, and then who are you guys going to be going up against this offseason?
We're right in the middle of spring. We went last week, and then we'll follow up this week. We're not going to scrimmage anyone. We'll finish up with more of a night of champions where we will basically conduct a lift-a-thon where we'll invite the community out, and they will watch these kids get after it in various lifts. We'll run some 40s and everything just to get the community excited as well, to get these kids out in front of their parents, their grandparents, are able to come out here and watch these guys and see the work they've put in this off season. We got various 7-on-7s lined up throughout this summer. We like to do at least once a week, throw with someone. We'll be going to Reinhardt. We'll be going to Kennesaw State. We'll be going to Georgia. And then we'll conduct some that will be a little bit more local with Adairsville and Gordon Central and Murray County and some things like that, just to be able to slow it down a little bit and make some corrections as we go.
And then Jackson Pate, he's a two-sport athlete. What's he looking to do just at the next level? Go the baseball route, pursue a football career, or is he just focused on just putting in the work and improving athletically?
Yeah, Coach Mashman would get mad if I didn't tell you that he plays basketball as well. He's
Nice.
our starting guard in basketball, but he's solid in all three sports. But I think he really stands out in football, and then definitely in baseball. He would like the opportunity to be able to continue his playing career in either one of the sports. He'll be just like last year. He'll have his plate full this summer with various camps that he'll go to football wise, and then the Titans organization that he plays for in his travel ball. So he's an all region player, all state type player in both sports. So he's going to kind of just let the chips fall where they need to be, and the good Lord's got him, got a plan for him, and he's very blessed in his ability, and he's going to let it just play out.
Awesome. Yeah, it's really going to be exciting. So in baseball, I'm looking at right now, 375 batting average, all region, as you said. He's been a 2-year starter in football. You said starting at guard in basketball too. So he's just one of those playmakers that we will be watching heading into his senior year. That'll be really exciting. Well, Coach Pate, thank you so much for coming on. Best of luck the rest of this offseason, and the Night of Champions, we'll be checking that out.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, and thanks for all you guys do for us.
You bet. All right. Well, there goes Coach Pate. And, yeah, very impressed with Jackson Pate. As I said, he is going to be their leading rusher, so they have the home run hitter with Keegan Townsend. He had a 74-yard touchdown last year in a big game, some 50 yards. So being able to connect on that deep ball is huge. Having that explosive capability, and then, gosh, you add some of those other playmakers, fill some holes defensively, get a tight end replacement, fullback replacement, which obviously they're working on, and they have a great schedule to prepare them. They will be battle tested and competing in a tremendous region that is, I'd say, 5 teams deep in terms of who can make some noise in the playoffs. But let's go ahead and take one more quick break, and then we'll close out the show with our track and field updates.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So let's see if I can do this fast. Let's go over this weekend's track and field state championship results. So in 7A, the Westlake boys won with 60 total points. Walton and Buford tied. They both finished with 46. The Walton boys actually held the lead after the first day. They did really well in the field events, but Westlake looks like they got big performances by C.D. Najeh in the 400. He won with a 45.46. They also won the relays with the 4x100 and the 4x200, and then picked up points also with, let's see. Oh, yeah, the 110-meter hurdles with Cameron Giordani. So they had the overall strong day on Saturday to pull ahead and finish with the state title. And then the Westlake girls, they won as well, 73.33 points. That's the second time that Westlake has swept state titles, first time since 2017. The girls, they were paced by the relay team. They won the 4x100. They came in second in the 4x200, and then Kaylee Jefferson did well in the long jump. Zion Lockett placed in the high jump, and they pretty much just had that depth all around. So Westlake takes 7A. In 6A, and the other big result I wanted to point out, the 100-meter dash. So Dwight Phillips from Pebblebrook was the defending state champ in the 100-meter. I think he ran like a 10.38 last year to take it. Well, this year he ran a 10.31. Seemingly every single meet he was getting faster and faster. And heading into state, that 10.31 was the fastest time anyone had run in the entire country. Well, Chris Nelson of South Forsyth came in, and he ran a 10.22 to win the state championship, and Dwight actually ran a 10.24, so a personal best. But Chris Nelson just came out and had an incredible eye-opening run, and that is definitely going to give him national attention. That was the fastest time anyone ran at state this weekend, a 10.22. So incredible for Chris Nelson of South Forsyth. So in 6A, the Hughes boys won the state title for the first time in school history with 59 points. They beat North Atlanta's 51 and Etowah's 49.5. On the girls' side, Woodward Academy won 89.5 points. Alexander came in second, and there was a tie at third with Alpharetta and Marist. Alexander's speedster Eric Singleton won the 400-meter with a 46.30. He also won the 100-meter dash with a 10.35. And then Hughes sophomore Maurice Gleaton, watch out for him in the years ahead. He ran a 10.37. There was also Tommy Latham of Marist. He's probably one of the better long-distance runners in the state. He won the 3,200 meter as well as the 1,600 meter. And then, let's see, I'm looking for the high jump. Ryan Rankin of Brunswick, he was probably the only guy that was clearing 7 feet, and he did that as a sophomore. Well, he just won his third straight state title in the high jump with a 7-foot, 3.75-inch state championship jump. So that was really impressive for him. And then Woodward Academy, they had Olivia Powell. She placed first in the 100-meter hurdles and the 300-meter hurdles to give them 20 of their points. And Chelsea Williams also placed in the 100-meter dash, and they had a great season to win 6A. In 5A, the Dutchtown boys got 99 points. Second place Tucker only had 51. They were led by Makai Oliver. He placed second in the 400-meter dash, and then they won the 4x100 relay, the 4x200 relay, and also got a first place finish by Najeh Lee in the 100-meter hurdles and the 300-meter hurdles. So that was a dominant performance. The 5A girls was really close, though. Greater Atlanta Christian, 61 points. Second place Cambridge, 54.50. And the big standout for them, Nia Wilson of Greater Atlanta Christian. She won the 100-meter dash with a 11.51 finish. And just in comparison, Ryan Davis of Hillgrove, she actually ran slightly faster in 7A with an 11.47. So two of the fastest runners in the state, and I will probably get to see them next week and go head-to-head. And that will be really exciting. I think those are the only two girls that were at that 11.5 mark. In 4A, Southwest DeKalb, the boys won with 81 points. Stars Mill had 77.50, so a narrow victory. Southwest DeKalb won state last year in 5A. They moved down to 4A, same as Stars Mill moving in there, and then Westminster also moving in there. So those three teams were all new to 3A, and it was really close down the stretch. Southwest DeKalb was trailing heading into Saturday. They had a really big margin to make up. Stars Mill had 62.5 points after day one, and then only were able to add about 14 points after that, where Southwest DeKalb, they were so dominant in the relays. They won the 4x200. They placed second in the 4x100. Really just had a strong performance in the sprints and relays and the hurdles, with Isaiah Taylor winning the 110-meter hurdles and the 300-meter hurdles. So Isaiah Taylor really coming through strong to help them defend their title. Then on the girls' side, that was the Westminster girls. They absolutely dominated. 124 points. Second place, Druid Hills, 64. Third place, Pace Academy, 54. On the boys' side, Sandy Creek swept state titles. Let's see if that was the first ever state title for the Sandy Creek girls, and the first ever sweep by the school. And then the boys won their fourth all-time state title and first since 2015. So what a school year for Sandy Creek, sweeping state titles in track, winning the football state championship, and winning the first ever boys basketball championship. So Sandy Creek has been tremendous this year in 3A. And they were led by, let's see, Dalen Pinson had a strong performance, placing in both of the hurdle events. Kaishan Kinney, he had a second place finish in the 300-meter hurdles. They won first in the 4x200 relay. This is the boys, and they actually set a state meet record that was a 1 minute 27 second and 44 millisecond finish. Let's look at how that compared to the 7A. Interesting. Westlake actually would have narrowly beaten them. So it was a 3A state record, but that Westlake relay team is still slightly faster. But a great performance by Sandy Creek to sweep the titles. Bobby Olive on the girls' side, she won the 100-meter dash, and her teammate Ryan Lewis came in second. She beat her by 1/100th of a second, but that's a huge result for them. Just that event right there, the 100-meter dash, that's 18 points with a first and second place finish. This is how they were able to dominate. In Class 2A, the Athens Academy boys won a narrow victory, 89.5. Second place landmark was 86.5, so just 3 points determined that finish. Let's see. That was Athens Academy's first ever boys title, and the Landmark Christian girls, that was their 9th. So they definitely have that dynasty going. Taylor Galat, she came in second in the 100-meter dash. They won the 4x100 relay. They placed second in the 4x200. Placed third in the 4x800. And also, let's see if they had any success in these other events. Okay, I can't see it off the top of my head. But then in Class A Division I, let's see. Mount Pisgah took the boys' side. That was their first ever state championship. And then Athens Christian on the girls' side, that was their 4th all-time championship. And then I got this one right. Montgomery County in Class A Division II, they swept the title for the first time. And that was the third boys state title and the first girls. The boys ended up outscoring them, Schlage County 58-46. The girls 71 points. Second place Georgia Military 49. And Marley Bell was the standout in the Class A Division II for Montgomery County. I think she placed in 4 different events. Just had one of the better performances we saw this past weekend. So there you have it for the track and field. So let's go to tennis real quick and look at those results. So in 7A, Walton 3-1 win over North Gwinnett. That dynasty continues. In 6A, Marist beats Alpharetta for the girls' title. Northview in 5A, they beat Chattahoochee. Those are 2 absolute powerhouses. 4A, Pace Academy beat North Hall 3-0. Wesleyan beat Savannah Country Day in 3A with a sweep. Jeff Davis beat Berrien in 2A. The Class A Division II, Christian Heritage beat Johnson County. And then in Class A Division I, Darlington, a 3-2 win over Mount Vernon. On the boys' side, Lambert beat West Forsyth 3-0. Johns Creek beat Marist 3-0. GAC beat Chattahoochee 3-0. Westminster beat North Oconee 3-0. Wesleyan beat Savannah Country Day 3-0 in 3A. Mount Perrin took Class 2A with a 3-2 win over Fellowship Christian. In Class A Division I, Atlanta International beat Mount Vernon 3-1, and then Lake Oconee Academy won Class A Division II with a 3-0 win over Taylor County. All these results can be found on scoreatl.com, and then the tennis brackets will be at the GHSA.net. Let's see. Let's go to baseball real quick and just look at what we have ahead of us. So the big matchup at Truist Park tomorrow is going to be Class 7A between Parkview and Lowndes. Lowndes is looking to become the first school outside of Metro Atlanta since 2003 to win a state title in Georgia's highest classification. The last school to do it was Colquitt County in 2003. Lowndes, their last state championship came in 2000, but they have had a great season. They have not lost a single 3-game series. They have had some tough losses early on. I think they fell to Houston County 14-2, but since then they swept the region. Then when you look at what they did in the playoffs, it's truly impressive. They beat North Paulding in the semifinals. I think it was 3-0 and then 4-3. North Paulding was coming off a big win over Walton. They had been averaging 10 runs a game, and they held them to 3 runs in that entire series. As for Parkview, they haven't lost a series either. I think they've only lost like 2 games to Georgia teams all season. That was Marist earlier, and then to Decula in the quarterfinals. And then their Game 3 win over Decula was really clutch. They were down 7-5 heading into the 6th inning. They eventually get the bases loaded with the game tied 7-7. Their coach decides to pinch hit their sophomore pitcher, and then he gets hit by the pitch on the first throw, and that's actually how they got the game-winning run on a hit batter with bases loaded. And then they come in and close it out in the top of the 7th to win the series. So once that kind of really close series was behind them, they utterly dominated, and then they beat Mill Creek 10-0, 12-2 in the semifinals. So that's what sticks out when I look at both these teams. They've had tough battles in the quarterfinals, but then once they got to the semis, they really clamped down defensively, looked to take that next step, and now they're going to be going head-to-head. And Parkview, this will be their third straight time playing in that stadium. It might have been called SunTrust Park the first time. Now it's obviously Truist. They won in 2021, and then last year they fell to Woodstock, and then they are back again. So they're familiar with that venue. Lowndes, I think this will be their debut in Truist, but I've just been impressed with what Lowndes has done this season. And then you can't discount Garrett Lambert and Cade Brown for Parkview. Brown and senior Landon Stripling have combined for 27 of the team's 48 home runs this season. They've been blasting it in the postseason as well, having multi-homer games and giving Parkview that power that has allowed them to just be one of the most dominant baseball teams in the country. So we will have that coverage starting tomorrow when that series gets underway, and then Houston County at Pope. That will be May 18th. I think that will be on Wednesday. That's going to be a tremendous series. Houston County has been unstoppable this season. Pope's the defending champs. They've gone through a brutal bracket to get to the finals again. They took down defending champion Woodstock in the second round and just beat a really good River Ridge team in convincing fashion in the semifinals. That was 10-4, 15-3. In Class 5A, Loganville will be awaiting the winner of McIntosh and Centennial. That will be at 6 o'clock today. Centennial won Game 1, 13-0, and then McIntosh took Game 2, 15-9. Loganville swept Greenbrier in the semis, and Greenbrier was coming off that big 3-game win over Cartersville. So Loganville, they're right back at it. The Red Devils, they seem to always know how to turn it on in the playoffs. In Class 4A, North Oconee and LaGrange is the matchup. North Oconee won their first ever state title last year. They only lost one game. It was to Allatoona. It was a game that was called off midway through it as well because of a rain delay, so can't even really call it a full loss. And they've battled back to the state title, and they're going to play a LaGrange team that's been on a tear this season. They have not lost a game in the playoffs yet, and they beat a great Lovett team 4-3, 3-2. So battle-tested, close games. I think that'll be a really intriguing matchup. In 3A, Harlem's having a historic season, and they're going to play Ringgold in the finals, and that will be a big matchup. Harlem started this season, I think, 28-0 before losing their first game. They ended up taking a number 2 seed into the playoffs, and then they have not dropped a game yet. They beat Pike County 7-5 and 3-2 in the semis. That was a huge win. And then on the other side, Ringgold just beat Savannah Christian 1-0, 4-3. Very narrow victory right there. All right, 3 more classes to go. It's going to be Mount Perrin against North Cobb Christian in Class 2A. I'm really excited about that one. That's going to be May 20th. In Class A Division 1, we are still awaiting those. It's going to be Bleckley County and Irwin County tomorrow in the semis, and then Prince Avenue Christian and Darlington starting at 4 o'clock tomorrow in the semis. And then Class A Division 2, McIntosh County Academy at Charlton County tomorrow, and then Emmanuel County Institute at Schley County tomorrow at 4 o'clock. So lots of baseball going on. I'll have that coverage tomorrow, and then be sure to check out Underrated and Overlooked. Najeh and I will break down some more of the high school side. We'll look at the recruiting news. We'll talk some NBA and some professional sports as well, and that will get underway at noon tomorrow. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. It'll be a good week. Spring is coming to a close, but it's always exciting with these baseball matchups. I know tomorrow is going to be a great environment at Truist between Lowndes and Parkview. So we'll see you then. Take care.